So back in the saddle, boy, did I miss a lot, right? I go online. I see Evan getting in fights with wrestlers that I've never heard of. I see Evan being attacked by low-rated Tampa Bay radio shows. I see Evan being attacked by low-rated YouTube video hosts, including my main man, Todd Frazier, who I have a great relationship with.
Not anymore.
I mean, you have really put me behind the 8 ball.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Evan. How are you?
I'm glad you're back. Just in time for Game 7, Knicks Heat. Can't wait.
Yes, big game tonight. I'll be at the Garden tonight. All pumped up. Knicks favored by 4.5.
I think you guys have a shot tonight.
By the way, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Thank God it was on Friday. Thank God it was on Friday. So I have Saturday, Sunday, now most of today to get over it. And I will say this. I did not like what the fans did on the streets of Manhattan, defiling that poster of Julius Randle. It just rubbed me the wrong way. That being said, the NBA cost the New York Knicks Game 6.
Yes.
Julius Randle did not play great, obviously.
Nobody played great
RJ
outside
Barrett
of Jalen.
didn't play. No one played well.
One guy
played well.
RJ played well in the first quarter because he got to the line a million times.
Yes, he did.
Outside of
That's
that,
right.
everyone played like crap outside of Brunson.
But here's the thing that's frustrating. I know you've lived this in a different way with your Nets. I love the NBA's transparency with the 2-minute report.
Mm-hmm.
I think every league should do it to the extent that you can replicate that because it's honest. And it's, look, our referees are not perfect. They make mistakes. Here are the mistakes. So you and I have talked about it before. I have always appreciated it. I don't like it. I don't like it this time because they acknowledged in a 4.6 game loss that there were 3 plays that either were calls or non-calls.
Yep.
All of them went against the Knicks. Now, I can't tell you the Knicks win the game, obviously. But, man, if the whistles blew on those calls, maybe.
Things are different.
So while I appreciate the honesty, I have always respected that level of transparency.
I wish every league had that, by the way.
As do I. When you're on the wrong end of an elimination game that was close, you look at it differently.
I don't know if you feel this way. Obviously not as a Knicks fan, but watching the game that night, the last few days, hearing about it, thinking about it, did you walk away from Game 6 thinking, damn the officials?
No, I did not.
Or do you walk away from Game 6 thinking, we didn't play well enough?
I'll do more specific than that, to be very honest.
Yeah.
At no point did I think the Knicks were going to win the game. It wasn't one of those games, even when they got it to 2, which was like 92-90, I think, was when they got it to 2.
Right.
The only time they had it at 2. To be honest, I did not think. Now, the only thing looking back on it, on that one play down to 92-90,
the Jalen
when
turnover
Jalen doesn't throw the ball out to a wide open Josh Hart. But let's be honest about it. Josh Hart couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in this series.
Right.
So it's not fair for me to say if Jalen dishes the ball to Hart there, he's going to make the shot. Now, he probably would have driven the lane because it was wide open, and he's very good at that. But I don't think it's fair, as unhappy, as disappointed as I am as a Knicks fan, if I'm going to break down that 6-game series, which we got outplayed in almost every game, to a single possession that our best player who showed up every single night made obviously a mistake on? Because I think that's not fair.
The problem is in an NBA game, there are so many possessions and so many moments and so many plays that you can look back on and rationalize and say, well, if this happens differently, this occurs.
Yeah.
I think after a 6-game loss, you look broadly at what the hell happened.
We didn't shoot well.
And I think broadly, and this is why a lot of the anger is going towards Julius, is that he didn't play well.
Look, Evan,
it's the second postseason where that's happened.
He was 10 points under his league. His season
he shot
average.
22% from 3. Like he wasn't good. And sometimes things are that simple. And you and I, we can hold our chin high. Because even when Randle was having the year he was having and Knicks fans were falling back in love with him, there was a skepticism that I had as an IBO and you had as a Knicks fan, which is, they ain't winning with this guy.
I never liked him, and I respected the fact he had a great season. I would have traded him at the trade deadline. I said it, that whole week with you. That being said, I guess, how do you look at the season? Look, I had a great time. Obviously, they brought me more enjoyment and excitement than I've had out of them in a long time. It wasn't enough. We should beat the Miami Heat, in my opinion, in a 7-game series 7 out of 10 times, and we didn't. And that you kind of left hollow. There's an empty feeling to that.
The other problem is right now in the moment, how was the season? Well, they exceeded expectations. They got to the second round.
I'm disappointed.
It's all about what happens next. If this is a building block towards next year in which you go further, and the year after that you go further, and eventually it leads to a championship, then you look back at 23 and say it was a great building block. But if you guys miss the playoffs the next 5 years, then you're going to look at 2023 as a fart in the wind.
Listen,
so I think a lot of it is what's next. Like, I'm not big on, hey, this was such a great year. You know what a great year is? Winning a championship. That's a great year.
Yes.
Because I've learned this lesson many times in different sports with different teams, that just because you had a year that exceeded expectations and you had, quote-unquote, a lot of fun, doesn't mean it's going to lead to anything. It may feel like it's leading somewhere.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it will, and that's what this whole thing is defined by.
Listen, it comes down to, all right, listen, Josh Hart's going to opt out of his contract. He's making $12 million. He's got to opt out of that. Do the Knicks sign him to a multi-year deal? It seems pretty obvious that they should. They were a better team having him off the bench with Grimes starting. But, it all comes down to one guy, right? And that guy's not R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett had a better postseason, in my opinion, than he did regular season.
I agree.
So it comes down to Julius Randle. Right, Julius Randle, unfortunately, in the biggest moments, did not play well. But he's our highest paid player. And he's hard to trade. Like, who are you moving him for?
Well, that's the whole problem with this discussion. Like, if you're getting something incredibly valuable for Julius in a package, then it's an easy decision. Are you selling him for less than what his real value should be? Like, if you're not a better team after a trade of Julius Randle because you have to attach a first-round pick and you're getting role pieces back, then he's not worth trading. That's why it's not as simple, should you trade Julius Randle, yes or no? It's about what can you get. Can you make a deal that helps bring this team to the next level?
Yeah, and I don't think you can. I mean, again, I'm not a GM, so we'll have to see what Leon Rose does. Obviously, I think it's on the table. I think they've got to be disappointed in what they got out of Julius Randle. And that's one of the reasons the New York Knicks are not in the Eastern Conference Finals getting ready to play the Boston Celtics. But I will say this. For everything I felt on Friday night, the negative aspect of the New York Knicks not winning Game 6 and forcing a Game 7 tonight, it was all washed away. It was all washed away.
By what, Craig?
It was all washed away by the final 23 minutes and 25 seconds of the Celtics-Sixers series.
Oh, yes.
Tobias Harris hits a three.
Yes.
55-55.
Yes.
We're going to have a great second half in Game 7.
Tell me more.
And then the Boston Celtics went on a 28-5 run. Game over. MVP over.
Sometimes
the Sixers are done.
You taught me a lesson. You taught me a lesson years ago when we first started. You said, look, Evan, sometimes I'm going to say things. It's going to take a while before it's proven
I'm always
true.
right eventually.
I'll never forget sitting right next to you. I kind of lost it the day that the Nets traded James Harden, and I had this, fit where I started screaming, he's a loser.
Yeah.
They'll never win. They're a bunch of losers. And as I was watching the tail end of the third quarter, and I was watching the fourth quarter, and I watched James Harden have another scoreless fourth quarter, and I watched Joel Embiid smile his way to a game in which he made 5 field goals, and the Sixers got absolutely embarrassed in Game 7. I thought to myself, boy, was I right about that?
There you go.
Losers.
Listen, here's the thing. You expect James Harden to no-show in Game 7. He gave you what he gives you.
Yeah.
But for the reigning MVP of the NBA
Shouldn't surprise
to
you.
make 5 total baskets
I'm sorry.
in Game 7, pathetic.
That shouldn't surprise you, because let's look at Joel Embiid's resume.
Yeah.
What has he done in the biggest spot once they get to the second
He's never
round?
gotten to an Eastern Conference Final.
It wasn't just Ben Simmons collapsing against Atlanta in Game 7. Joel Embiid was a part of it, too.
I love it.
Bro.
Oh, what great
It's
joy
like-
I got.
It's like porn for me.
I got to tell you, it's almost like the Knicks didn't lose on Friday. I mean, that's how much joy, because if the Sixers had gotten to an Eastern Conference Final,
Yes.
they're good enough to beat the Miami Heat. And I'm saying to myself, not another Philadelphia team, going to a championship round. They went to the Super Bowl. They went to the World Series. They went to the MLS Cup. Enough. So losing in that manner. And then Joel Embiid coming out afterwards, and among other things, saying, I hope the other guys get better because it's a 5-on-5 sport. Can't do everything. You did nothing, kid.
Did nothing.
You can't be that tone deaf to your performance.
You came up little tiny itty-bitty in a Game 7, and what they're really going to regret is Game 6. They're going to regret their home floor having a fourth-quarter lead. Jason Tatum did nothing in the first half of that game. They blew their opportunity, and what really makes me feel good, and you know this, I know this, and everybody in Philly knows this, you're not winning with this group.
No, that runs over. I think they'll probably fire Doc Rivers here in short order. It's my gut on it, and I don't care. Good. They had a chance. The window's closing. Harden may not be back. And Joel Embiid is now the only MVP in the history of the NBA to not make it past the semifinal. It has never happened before. Now, he's got more years left in his career, obviously, but he's the only MVP in the history of the league to never get past a semifinal round. That's all you need to know about Joel Embiid. Winning the MVP, in my opinion, was more important to him than winning an NBA championship.
Joel is good at two things, winning MVPs and kicking innocent people in the balls. He does that very well.
That's
Philly
right.
Is a city of losers.
I don't know who said that, but I happen to agree with the sentiment. Oh, is that you? Meanwhile,
James Harden is a...
I'm going to start taking more days off because apparently when I'm away, you get crazy.
Yeah, I'm a little crazy.
You get crazy.
I'm a shock jock.
You're like, Craigie's not here. I got to make up for it. I mean, who are you not fighting with right now?
Tampa.
You're fighting with Tampa. The entire city of Tampa's pissed at you.
Entire city.
Todd Frazier's pissed at you.
Todd Frazier.
Dan Quisenberry's pissed at you. I don't know who does that dopey show. AJ Perninsky.
Brzezinski.
Who does that show?
Doesn't Brzezinski do it with Frazier?
It's one of those YouTube shows that nobody ever heard of until they attack people with an audience like us. I love shows like that. And I love Todd. Todd's a good dude. I got nothing against Todd Frazier. He and I have done a bunch of charity stuff together. Great guy. Love him to death.
Yeah, he was a great man. Love him.
He's a good dude. I like Todd Frazier a lot.
He was a bad dude. I never said anything about him being a dude.
So I'm going to take Todd Frazier out of it because I like Todd personally a great deal. But, I mean, that's a show with no viewers. So what do you do when you have no viewers? You talk about Craig and Evan because that gets you viewers, right?
That's the trick.
Wah, Tampa's upset. F Tampa. Nobody wants to live in Tampa anyway.
And they're going to not even have a team in a couple of years. This is all temporary.
Do you know that there's not a single member of the Rays that makes their offseason home in Tampa?
Is that true?
No, I don't know.
Just make it up. Sounds good.
Anyway, yeah. So the poop hit the fan.
Yeah.
This weekend, and then I know it was discussed online amongst a lot of Met fans. But can we acknowledge that what happened this weekend regarding the New York Mets in Washington with this 4-hour rain delay? I know you were very upset about it, rightfully so. That can't happen.
Well, so I want to make something clear.
That can't ever happen.
I wasn't upset because for most of us watching at home, we're not really affected by it. You know what I mean? Like, we're not in the ballpark, but those people in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure some Met fans made the trip, and our friends down in D.C. who sat in the ballpark while the Washington Nationals and Major League Baseball, let's call them out too, ask Rob Manfred how come he did nothing about that. No, seriously, how could Major League Baseball have people sitting in a stadium for 4 hours with no updates, and in the last hour and a half of this, there's no rain, the sun comes out, there's a sunset in the Capitol, and everybody's standing there before they just put an announcement up that says, we're not playing today, we're going to suspend the game. And then the Nationals said, I got an idea. This isn't bad enough. Let's make it worse. Let's make tomorrow a split admission doubleheader.
Right.
I mean, you talk about...
Now, that one's on the Nationals, that part of it.
That's on the Nationals. What I hold MLB accountable for is that step in at some point and tell them, hey, you got to communicate with your customers, with your fans.
Sure.
You can't leave them in the dark for 4 hours like that. It was ridiculous.
No, and by the way, 4-hour delay... and then you don't play, and it's no longer raining, that's the part of it. Like, no one holds you responsible for the weather. We get that. But your reaction to the weather is the problem.
I want to add to that. There's one thing also that I had a problem with. At the 2-hour mark, make an announcement. Hey, here's what's going on, guys.
Yeah.
We know the rain has stopped. You guys can see it. We have to deem that this field is playable enough. We don't want to put the players in a spot where it's dangerous for them. So bear with us. We're going to look at the field. The managers are going to, communicate.
Yeah.
Instead, Howie Rose is guessing on Twitter. Like, everyone's guessing what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And it lasted 4 hours. Then finally, they're like, game suspended. See you tomorrow.
I got to tell you, there's another aspect of it, just watching highlights of it and whatnot, that still get me to this day. That with all the great technology we have, you still got random guys running out there with bags of dirt. Like, you would think at some point with all these new stadiums, we would have a way of having some type of drying process that maybe the average homeowner doesn't have, because you build $1 billion stadium, that there would be a way or a machine that could do something to dry off the infield.
I thought they did.
Right?
I already thought they did.
I got to tell you, I love it when I see you. It's usually kind of a somewhat overweight guy running out or trying to run out to the infield, literally like I'm doing my garden with bags of dirt and 3 guys with rakes.
Oh.
Like, what are we doing?
When you talked about an overweight guy running over the field, I thought you meant Daniel Vogelbach trying to go first to third in the middle of a mudstorm. Because that's what happened right before the delay. They were playing in like these horrific conditions, which caused the game to be postponed because they waited so long. The field got so muddied up that by the time they covered it, it was pretty much too late.
All right, we got lots to do. The phone number to join, 877-337-6666. We'll get all your calls on the end of the Knicks season, where your anger is. Obviously, Julius Randle. But if you have anything beyond that, or if you want to just vent about the performance of Julius Randle, I will say one thing about that, and that is the criticism that Julius took prior to that game for giving his wife and son a kiss at the baseline, after Game 5 is absolutely unbelievable. That we're going to now find that to be problematic. If you want to yell and scream about Randle's performance, have at it. But why are we going to criticize a guy for giving his wife and son a hug and a kiss
the problem I had
after
is
a
that
game?
Kenyon Martin was the one who did it. He did it on Gilbert Arenas' podcast.
Come on, what are we doing?
And listening to the whole clip, it sounds as if Kenyon and other guys want to criticize Julius as a guy that's not liked by his teammates and not liked by the fans.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then criticize.
Just say that.
Then just say that. I don't think using him kissing his wife after the game as the reason was smart at all. Like, if you know, hey, I've heard through the grapevine, his teammates don't like him.
That's fine.
And by the way, watching the Knicks all year, you could find little signs that that's the case.
Yeah.
You can.
I agree.
But why would you pick a moment of, hey, let me go kiss my wife as the thing that shows you that?
Like, I applaud it. I promote that. That's a man who loves his family. There's a plenty to criticize Julius Randle about from a basketball standpoint. But to take a shot at him for hugging and kissing his wife and son is like unconscionably stupid. But it also came from Kenyon Martin, so why would I be surprised?